Imagine looking in the mirror, but what stares back isn't quite right, not right at all. Your jaw jets out, way out, so your mouth just hangs open. You're drooling a little.
Grim picture.
Yeah, and trying to speak. It's a real struggle. Your tongue feels too big for your mouth, your back is curved, your hands shake, your skin's all pale and waxy, and those eyes, those famous Habsburg eyes, they just bulge out, looking confused.
That's Charles II of Spain near the end.
Exactly, dying at 38. And the sources say he kind of knew, that awful clarity people sometimes get. He knew it wasn't just bad luck, not a curse, it was the blood. 16 generations of choices made by his ancestors.
Accumulated genetic damage. Stark.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into something you, our listener, actually asked us to explore using these amazing sources you sent over. We're talking about the dark side of royal bloodlines.
Right. The really devastating results of extreme inbreeding.
Yeah, how wanting pure blood created these incredibly tragic figures.
And what's really striking, I think, is how this wasn't just, one family messing up. It was systematic. It happened across different times, different cultures.
Right.
What people used to call a curse, we now know it was just genetics.
Right.
Predictable, really.
So our mission today is to walk through some of these royal genetic experiments. We'll hit the Spanish Habsburgs, of course, but also go way back to the Egyptian pharaohs, the Ptolemies.
Yeah, looking at the physical toll, the mental toll.
Exactly, and the science behind it all. What can we learn from this obsession with purity?
Let's start with the Habsburgs in Spain.
Yeah.
Because, wow, that's probably the clearest, most catastrophic example.
Almost 2 centuries, right, from about 1516 to 1700. And it wasn't just like occasional cousin marriage, it was relentless.
It really was. The numbers are staggering.
Right.
Between 1450 and 1661, looking at the Spanish monarchs, 9 out of 11 marriages were between close blood relatives.
9 out of 11.
Yeah, often uncle, niece, or first cousins. It got so intense that some of the kids had inbreeding coefficients close to what you'd get if siblings had children.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. And it started early, right at the beginning with Charles I, who you probably know better as the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V.
Born in 1500, huge empire, smart guy, seemed healthy at first. Not the obvious start to this kind of story.
No, but even then, you look at the portraits, you read what people wrote at the time, the signs were there.
Like that diplomat in 1517 said he had a long, cadaverous face and his mouth would just drop open.
Exactly. That's the beginning of the famous Habsburg Jaw. That protruding lower mandible, it was already noticeable.
And genetically.
Well, his own inbreeding coefficient was 0.038. Now, compared to his descendants, that's low. But for a normal population, it's already kind of high. His parents were cousins. But the real issue was his choice of wife. He ruled this vast empire, but he married his first cousin, Isabel of Portugal.
They needed special permission from the Pope for that one.
Right. They did, because they were so closely related. And their son, Philip II, inherited a much more concentrated genetic legacy. Charles eventually abdicated in 1556. Maybe he was just worn out, but maybe he saw something wasn't right with the bloodline.
Which brings us to Philip II, born 1527, inherits Spain at its peak power, but also inherits those Habsburg features even more pronounced.
Oh, yeah. The long face, the hooded eyes, that jaw making it hard to eat or talk. You see it in the portraits.
And it wasn't just physical, was it?
No, not at all. Many historians think he had severe depression, maybe something on the autism spectrum. He got obsessed with tiny details.
Like rewriting letters for hours.
Exactly. While huge strategic issues for the empire were being neglected. His rigidity, his focus on religious purity, the Inquisition got a huge boost under him. It all arguably stemmed from his mental state, and it definitely contributed to Spain's decline. Disastrous wars, the failed armada against England, bankruptcies.
So his personal genetics really impacted world events.
Absolutely, it's a crucial link. And his marriages. Desperate search for a male heir.
4 times, right. First a cousin, Maria of Portugal.
Died young. Then Mary Set of England, no kids. Then Elizabeth of Valois, who wasn't related, and their kids were healthier. Interesting, huh?
It is telling. But then he went back to form for the last one.
He did. His niece, Anna of Austria, his own brother's daughter. And that union produced Philip III, carrying an even heavier genetic burden.
Philip III, born 1578. The sources on him are just brutal. Mentally slow, physically weak, completely reliant on others.
His inbreeding was so extreme, geneticists today say it's kind of amazing he even made it to adulthood.
And the physical description, that jaw sticking out so far he couldn't close his mouth, constant drooling, food pre-cut because he couldn't chew.
Yeah. And his speech was apparently almost impossible to understand, slurred, mumbled.
And mentally. Contemporaries basically said he had the mind of a child.
Deeply superstitious, spent hours praying. But the actual running of Spain, left to his favorites who just took advantage.
So Spain's decline just got faster under him.
Dramatically. Lost the Netherlands, American colonies breaking away, more bankruptcies. It's a tragic picture of what happens when the person at the top is just profoundly limited by their biology.
And he married another cousin, Margaret of Austria, which led to
Philip IV, born 1605. He ruled for a long time, 44 years, but it was 44 years of continued decline. And you really see the Habsburg look reach its peak in him.
Velázquez's portraits, they're incredible but chilling. That jaw, the long skull, those sad, hooded eyes.
And mentally, severe depression seems certain. Maybe even with psychotic episodes. There are accounts of him hiding for weeks, talking to paintings, paranoid.
It must have been agony. And the heir situation was bad again, wasn't it?
Awful. His first wife, Isabella Bourbon, and other cousin had kids, but most died young. Only his daughter, Maria Theresa, survived to adulthood. He needed a male heir.
So he doubled down again.
He did. He married his niece, Marina of Austria, his own brother's daughter. It's like they couldn't see any other way.
Despite the obvious results.
Exactly. Most of their children died young, too. The survivors. Margaret Theresa, who, guess what, married her uncle. And then finally, Charles II.
The end of the line. Born 1661. The absolute lowest point.
16 generations of it. His inbreeding coefficient, 0.254. Just staggering. That's higher than if his parents had been brother and sister.
Wow. And the descriptions of him from birth, rashes, scabs, oozing ear, even confusion about his gender.
Yes, the records are quite explicit. He never walked right, weak legs, curved spine, terrible balance. Didn't talk till he was 4.
And when he did?
Barely understandable. That huge tongue, the malformed jaw, the Habsburg jaw at its absolute worst. He couldn't close his mouth properly, couldn't chew solid food. Meals were apparently just torture to watch.
It's just bleak and mentally.
Severely limited, couldn't really read or write, struggled with basic ideas, stuck with the mental development of a young child his whole life.
So they called him El Hechizado, the bewitched.
Right. They thought it had to be witchcraft or demonic possession. They even performed exorcisms on him. It was easier than facing the genetic truth, I suppose.
He married twice, though.
He did. Both wives reportedly found him physically repulsive. No children, of course. He was impotent, likely another direct result of the genetic damage.
And he died in 1700, just 38 years old.
November 1st, the end of the Spanish Habsburgs.
Yeah.
And the start of a massive European war over who would inherit Spain, all stemming from generations of prioritizing pure blood over health.
It's such a clear, devastating story, but this wasn't just a European thing, was it? This obsession goes way back.
All millennia back to ancient Egypt. The pharaohs practiced it for over 3,000 years.
But for them, it was religious, keeping the divine blood pure.
Exactly. It was seen as a sacred duty. Take Akhenaten, 18th dynasty, maybe 1350s BCE, famous for trying to change Egypt's religion to worship just the sun disk, Aten.
Right. The heretic king.
Well, his radical ideas might have been linked to his own physical issues, likely from inbreeding. The statues of him are strange.
Very strange. Long face, pointy chin, super long neck, weirdly shaped head, thin arms and legs, but a pot belly and kind of breasts?
Precisely. Medical experts look at that and suggest things like aromatase excess syndrome, where male hormones turn into female ones, and craniosynostosis, the skull bones fusing wrong.
Oh.
Both consistent with inbreeding.
And his family.
Parents, likely related. And he followed tradition. Married his sister, Nefertiti, even married his own daughters later on. Good grief.
Children from those unions, too genetically damaged, didn't survive.
So producing heirs became a real struggle, which leads us straight to Tutankhamun, King Tut.
The boy king ruled around 1330 BCE, and DNA testing finally solved the mystery of his parents, didn't it?
It did. His father was Akhenaten, his mother, one of Akhenaten's own sisters.
Brother and sister.
Yep, and Tutankhamun paid the price. Severe club foot. Remember all those walking sticks in his tomb?
630 of them, yeah.
A cleft palate, which would have affected his speech. Curved spine, so he was likely hunched over. Same elongated skull as his father.
It's just a catalog of suffering.
And more. Weak immune system, they found malaria parasites in his bones, the earliest confirmed case ever. He probably also had Kutler disease, where bone tissue in his foot was actually dying. Incredibly painful.
The science they can do now on the remains is incredible.
It really is. And, true to form, Tutankhamun married his half-sister, Ankhesenamun.
Did they have children?
2 stillborn daughters, buried with him. Both showed signs of severe birth defects. He died around 19. Malaria, Maybe complications from a broken leg, but underlying it all, generations of inbreeding, the end of that direct family line.
Okay, so Habsburgs, ancient Egyptians. Now let's jump forward. Alexander the Great conquers Egypt 332 BCE, sets up the Ptolemaic dynasty, Greek rulers acting as pharaohs.
And they took Egyptian royal incest and somehow made it even more extreme for almost 300 years. It shocked people even back then.
This wasn't just occasional.
Oh no, it was policy, systematic. Started right away with Ptolemy II marrying his sister Arsinoe II. From then on, brother-sister marriage was the norm. Their kids married their siblings.
Why? Just to keep power and money in the family.
Pretty much. Keep outsiders out, concentrate wealth, maintain control of Egypt.
Yeah.
It was a cold, calculated strategy.
With predictable biological results, I assume.
Absolutely. You look at the mummies, the coins,
Yeah.
you see increasing signs of problems. Obesity, swollen necks, bulging eyes, classic indicators of genetic disorders piling up.
Like Ptolemy VIII, nicknamed Physcon.
Fatty, basically. Ruled on and off in the 2nd century BCE. Sources say he was grotesquely obese, could hardly walk.
Not just fat, though, right?
No. Likely multiple endocrine problems. That swollen neck suggests a goiter. The bulging eyes point to thyroid disease. All common results of generations of inbreeding. And mentally, it sounds like a nightmare. Paranoid, violent, flew into rages, ordered massacres.
Not exactly stable leadership.
Not remotely.
Yeah.
And he married his sister, Cleopatra II, but then also married his niece, Cleopatra III, at the same time.
Good Lord.
Produced kids with even more concentrated genetic issues.
Wow.
Many died young or had serious developmental problems.
Which eventually leads us to the Cleopatra.
Cleopatra
Yeah.
VII, the famous one. Product of at least 8 generations of sibling marriage. Parents, brother and sister. Grandparents, brother and sister. It's relentless.
No, forget the Hollywood image. What did she likely look like?
Coins and statues show the Ptolemaic family look. Hooked nose, round face, probably quite a heavy build. Suggests the same metabolic issues seen in her ancestors.
And she continued the tradition.
Was forced to. Married her younger brother Ptolemy XIII, then after his death, her other younger brother Ptolemy XIV.
Even though the dynasty was clearly falling apart genetically.
Exactly. Which makes her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony look a bit different, doesn't it?
Desperate measures. Trying to bring in some healthy genes.
Quite possibly. A political move, yes, but maybe also a biological necessity for survival.
Right.
But it was too late. When she died in 30 BCE, that was it. The end of the Ptolemies, the end of 300 years of systematic royal incest. Her kids with the Romans carried on elsewhere, but the pure Ptolemaic line was finished.
These stories are just, wow. So let's get into the science a bit. Why is this so devastating? What's actually happening?
Well, it really boils down to probability.
Yeah.
We all carry some potentially harmful recessive genes, right? But usually, you inherit a normal dominant gene from your other parent that masks the harmful one. No problem.
Okay.
But if your parents are closely related, say, first cousins, they share a lot more of the same ancestral genes. So the chance of a child inheriting 2 copies of the same harmful recessive gene, one from each parent, goes way, way up.
And when that happens, the harmful trait appears.
Exactly. And when you do this generation after generation, cousin marries cousin, uncle marries niece, those harmful recessive genes don't get masked. They accumulate. They get expressed more and more often. It's like compounding interest, but for genetic defects.
Hence the Habsburg Jaw getting worse and worse.
Precisely. Mandibular prognathism, a trait likely caused by recessive genes becoming more extreme as the genes concentrated.
And Charles II, 0.254 coefficient. 25.4% of his genes identical from the same ancestors.
Right. Compare that to first cousins, which is 0.0625, or about 6%. Charles II was effectively the genetic equivalent of a child of siblings, but carrying the damage from 16 generations of this stuff piled up.
And it's not just the visible things, like the jaw.
Oh no, that's just the tip of the iceberg. This inbreeding depression, as it's called, hits everything. Immune systems weaken, mental capacity is often reduced, fertility plummets, you see higher rates of epilepsy, intellectual disabilities, anxiety, depression, chronic infections. It affects the whole person.
What's so tragic is that they must have seen it happening, right? Even without modern genetics.
Absolutely. It was obvious. Court records, doctors' reports, they documented the problems in excruciating detail. They knew something was wrong, even if they didn't have the language of DNA.
I kept doing it.
They did, because politics, power, keeping the empire together, maintaining that idea of divine right or pure blood, it always seemed more important than the actual health and well-being of the individuals involved.
These rulers, Charles II, Tutankhamun, Ptolemy VIII, they were victims, really.
Completely. Victims of a system that basically treated them like breeding stock. valued only for continuing these poisoned bloodlines.
Living with constant pain, confusion, being mocked, el hechizado, fiscon, unable to do the job they were born for.
The terrible irony, isn't it? The very obsession with preserving power through blood purity ended up destroying the people meant to wield that power.
And many of them just kept the cycle going. Charles II marrying twice, Tutankhamun marrying his half-sister, the Ptolemies.
Trapped by tradition, by expectation, maybe unable to even conceive of another way.
So how did it finally stop, this extreme level of inbreeding?
It gradually faded out in the early modern period. Several factors came together. Courts slowly started to recognize the risks, maybe not fully scientifically, but empirically. They saw the results.
And politics changed.
Yeah. Big international alliances became more important than just keeping everything within the family. Diplomacy shifted. Charles II's death in 1700 was a huge turning point for Spain, and how European royalty thought about marriage strategic alliances became key.
And in Egypt.
Roman conquest put an end to the Ptolemaic sibling marriage tradition. And then, the scientific revolution in the 17th and 18th centuries started providing better explanations, linking cousin marriage to health problems, even before Mendel and modern genetics.
So even a little bit of science helped shift things.
It seems so. It helped change centuries of tradition.
So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? It's more than just, weird history.
Definitely. These stories are, I think, powerful reminders about putting basic human welfare first, ahead of politics, ahead of tradition, ahead of abstract ideas like purity, recognizing the dignity of the individual.
These weren't just names in a history book or, like you said, monsters. They were people.
Exactly. Human beings who suffered terribly because of choices made by others, choices that prioritized power and bloodlines over health and happiness. Their suffering wasn't some mystical curse. It was the direct, predictable outcome of bad decisions, repeated over and over.
It really makes you think about the consequences of elevating ideology or lineage above actual people.
It does. And the importance of diversity, not just genetically, but maybe in how we think too. Learning from the past's mistakes.
Their legacy is, well, it's a warning, isn't it? About how even the most powerful systems can cause immense suffering if they lose sight of humanity.
A warning, yes, but also maybe a strange testament to the human spirit, that these individuals endured what they did.
Here's something to think about then. Maybe true nobility isn't about having pure blood. Maybe it's about having the courage to see our shared humanity, to choose compassion over tradition, diversity over purity.
And human dignity over raw ambition. How do these stories make you think about choices and consequences today? Something to mull over.